Late night eating is often connected to under eating early in the day. If you live restricted food, that late night eating. So the trick to the conveyor belt pacing is what's going to keep you satisfied for how long and eating throughout the day. Whether that becomes a couple snacks or a couple meals or whatever is very different. There are some days also that might be different. Like if you have a super long meeting, don't eat a snack if we can't eat again for 5 hours. We need a meal to last us the 5 hours.
Welcome to Salad with a Side of Fries. I'm your host, Jenn Trepic, talking wellness and weight loss for real life. We're here to clear up the myths, misinformation, bad science, and marketing to teach you how to eat and how to cheat. Are you ready? I'm having salad with a side of fries. Hey friend, I'm Jenn Trepic, your host and health coach, with you every week. Today, though, is a very special episode. We're celebrating 5 years of Salad with a Side of Fries, almost 500 episodes, and ranking in the top 1.5% of all podcasts globally. To celebrate, we recorded an episode live in NYC, and that's what you're going to hear today. Before we jump into the live event, I just want to tell our members what you're getting this week. So members, your recipe this week is for grilled shrimp with spicy slaw. It is fast, it's easy, there's so much flavor, it's absolutely delicious, perfect for grilling season, and also easy to do right in your kitchen if you're not into the grill or the outdoor space as it's super hot, I know. So if you want this recipe, be sure you're a member. Go to glow.fm/salad with a side of fries. For just $10 a month, you get weekly recipes, a monthly article or tool, extra discounts from me and our partners, plus access to live Q&A sessions. It's a total deal. I say it all the time. It's a steal because when you take advantage of the full offerings, you save far more than that $10 cost. It's seriously a no-brainer way to show yourself that your health is a priority. Plus, being a member supports this podcast and this community so we can continue to do this with you every single week, 5 years and counting. So support us by becoming a member. All you have to do is go to glow.fm/salad with a side of fries, or just click the link in the episode notes because that's a lot easier. Once you're there, you click the little I agree button, then support now, enter your email and payment info, click subscribe, and you're all set. You'll get this week's recipe for grilled shrimp with spicy slaw. And now, let's go to Salad with a Side of Fries live.
You guys are so well behaved. This is so not New York. All right, should we rehearse, you guys? You don't know me yet, but I feel acutely we should rehearse. Now, a lot of you are eating food, which is totally fine because we are talking about celebrating salads, fries, and in my case, chocolate and cookies. But this is something that we're doing that is not done frequently. Eureka, I'm lit. Am I lit? Hi guys, I'm Sue. I'm happy to meet you all. You can say hi, Sue. Hi, Sue. Hey, so here's what I want to do. Even though we're podcasting, right? I think that what Jenn Trepic has done for so many people in their lives has been game-changing, just allowing you to celebrate and have freedom around food. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what she's done, and then I'm going to bring her up here, and then you guys are going to give her a big honking standing O. Now, people eating, you might have to put your food down. I'm going to give you a quick second, and I'm going to just practice. She's not coming. We're not doing anything, but I'm going to say Jenn Trepic. You guys are going to vault to your feet. You're going to scream. You're going to stamp your feet. You're going to make the people on the second floor wish they showed up. Ladies and gentlemen, Jenn Trepic. Okay, that was wonderfully mediocre. I'm very proud of you guys. You did such a good job. Is it okay if I brag on my dear friend Jenn Trepic for 1 second? Over 480 episodes of Salad with a Side of Fries. Salad with a Side of Fries is in the top 1.5% of podcasts. And you know that literally thousands of podcasts are started every day. And it's because of you. So I need you to be thinking about your absolute best nutrition question. There's a tremendous amount of information out there, and Jenn and her entire team have done a beautiful job of clarifying what is crazy and what is valid. So ladies and gentlemen, get your heads ready, get your clapping ready. It's my honor and privilege to introduce Jenn Trepic.
Hi, everybody. We did it. We're here. You've had salad, fries, right? Salad was stuck on the FDR and we made it. Everybody got their fries. Mocktails, thank you to Curious Elixirs. Hold on, we got to do the thing for all the people who paid for this. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We have Plant Candy, Chelsea Square Restaurant for our salad and fries, respectively. And then, of course, Curious Elixirs for the mocktails. We're here to celebrate. Are we ready? So you heard it from Sue, 5 years of this show. So live from New York, it's salad with a side of fries. Right? We're going to do a thing tonight. Tonight, you all are the guests on the podcast. So in your bags is a notebook and a pen. You're going to grab those, and we're going to talk about some questions so you have a place to take notes. But I also am going to ask you a question to start. Is that okay? All right, so grab the notebooks, grab the pens. Are we ready? The first question I'm going to ask you, and you might want to write the question down too, just in case, and then over the course of the night, you can add some notes to it. So here's my question to you. If there's one thing you could change about your health today or prevent in the future, what would it be? I'll tell you the number one question I always get is, why did you start the podcast? So I want to back up and tell you that story while you contemplate your one health change. So really, the podcast started long before this was ever an idea in my mind. Growing up, I was a dancer, and I was the skinny one. I would frequently go shopping with my mom and my sister, and everything fit. I never had to have anything altered. I was the one where, like, in the store, after going shopping, there'd be a pile of things that I liked and that looked good, and I had to, like, dig through to decide the couple things that I would get. So then, between high school and college, I started to gain weight. And I was like, all right, I've seen this before. I've seen it all around me. I know what to do. And I did every diet under the sun. Gained and lost, lived on that roller coaster. So then it was my junior or senior year of college, just before I was in the business school at Michigan. And we had to have business professional clothing. So once again, I'm shopping with my mom and my sister. I'm in the dressing room at Saks. And I finally found something that looked good. And then I saw the size. And I just broke down in tears. My sister said to me, "Don't look at the size. It's just that it looks okay." And we've all been there, right? We've all had that moment where we're like, I don't recognize what's in the mirror. But the only solution I had was that diet roller coaster. So I continued to live on it. I graduate from college, I moved to New York, and I'm like, okay, I love it here. I don't know what I'm going to do for the rest of my life. I just know I'm not working for somebody else. And I started looking for things to do in my spare time with the intention of just taking that money and investing it and then retire early. But everything I thought of to do sounded totally miserable. Nevertheless, in that quest, I was introduced to the woman who introduced me tonight. And through that introduction, I learned about the curriculum that I've based my entire practice on. And at first, when I heard about it, I was like, no, that's okay. I've got my thing. I know, right? I knew all there was to know, but I was living on that roller coaster, up and down. That was the solution. But then I saw people who were following this approach, and I noticed two things. One was that these people were keeping the weight off. And two was this woman, she is out there, like, somebody find this woman for me. I have no idea what her name is, but she's telling her story of losing 150 pounds. And all I remember is staring at her. I heard nothing else of what she said because I was having a conversation in my own head, because looking at her, I couldn't see where 10 pounds could have been on this woman's body. And she's telling me that the equivalent of another human was attached to her. So I had this moment of like, Jennifer, right? It wasn't even Jen. It was like, Jennifer, they know something you don't know, because with everything you know, that doesn't make any sense. So I worked with a coach, followed the program, completely changed my life. Like, the only thing that allowed me to say I kicked my food issues. And I was like, everybody deserves this information. Why isn't this what we learned? I felt like it was the nutrition education we're all supposed to know and no one ever taught us. So I became a health coach. Built my practice on the side in late 2007 till July of 2019. So 12 years I built this side hustle. July of 2019, I knew I'm leaving my full-time job, and I'd gotten into listening to podcasts. And I remember at one point being like, I could do this. So I did. In my apartment with a microphone, Salad with a Side of Fries launched August of 2019, more because I don't know what to do with free time than anything else. But it was really about furthering this mission. I'm on a mission to help people reclaim control of their health. And by doing that, we can change the state of healthcare. So tonight, it's all about helping you reclaim your health. So as you contemplate your answer to the one thing that you want to change, the one thing I wrote down was that I needed to lose weight. Nothing else mattered. I couldn't see past it. That was it. So you want me to tell you what I learned as our first answer for the night? All right, your enthusiasm is blowing me away. Why is everybody so quiet?
Yes, tell us.
Thank you. Whether you are burning fat or storing fat is a function of blood sugar. So think about the grocery store checkout, right? The old school grocery store checkout where there was like a cashier and somebody who bagged, right? So you have this conveyor belt, and then the cashier rings it up and then passes it to the bagger, and the bagger puts things in a bag. And when that's happening in a nice pace, your frozen foods end up together, right? And the eggs are on top instead of underneath cans, right? That's how the body is supposed to work. But when that conveyor belt speeds up, what happens? The cashier speeds up, the bagger speeds up, and everything just gets thrown in a bag. So this is what happens in the body. When food and fuel come at a nice, even pace, the body produces insulin. Insulin carries all that fuel to our muscles and our cells to be used. When that conveyor belt speeds up, so that could happen because we've eaten too much. We've eaten high glycemic impact foods. Or in real life, what that means is we sat down at the restaurant and we started at the bread basket. It's like flipping a switch, speeds up the conveyor belt. Now we overproduce insulin to try to keep up with all that fuel. Our muscles and our cells can only take in so much fuel at a time and then they close. But our fat cells, they're geniuses. They're always open. And they store all of that extra fuel as fat, and they store the extra insulin as fat. I know some of you are like, but I have been told to eat less and move more, right? So let's take the other extreme. That conveyor belt, you put one thing on it. What happens? She takes her time. She rings it up, hands it to the bagger, but the bagger holds on to it. You don't get your bag, you can't leave because they're waiting for the next thing to come. Our body's holding on to it too. When we eat too little, when we cut out whole food groups, when we dramatically cut calories, our body doesn't realize that there's a refrigerator full of food that we're choosing not to eat. And it says, you won't kill me, I will survive, right? So anything it gets, it stores as fat because fat is fuel stored to be used later. So when we don't eat all day and then we eat dinner, even if what we order for dinner is, if textbook was a thing, like steamed fish and vegetables, your body is storing that steamed fish and vegetables as fat because it thinks it's never getting food again. So the objective, all right, note takers, here's your thing. Write it down. If you leave with nothing else, I love it, Nicole. Protein and fiber at every meal makes your moving fat no big deal. It's for you, Chad. Yes. And Lauren, protein and fiber at every meal makes your moving fat no big deal. Protein is clean, lean protein. Eat the protein you want. I don't care. Don't eat what you don't like. Clean, lean protein. Fiber is vegetables and sometimes fruit. And a meal is really any time we eat. The only difference between a meal and a snack is how much we have at a time, and then therefore how long it's going to last us till we need to fuel again. And then the other thing we want a couple times a day is some quality fat. And one day I'll figure out how to get the fat part in the cute little sentence. So for right now, protein and fiber at every meal makes your moving fat no big deal, and eat some quality fat too. Yeah. Right? Right? All right. We've done one question. Mine, what I wanted to do before, right, was lose that weight. That's the answer. Now it's your turn. You ready? Stephanie, thank you. Give Stephanie, yes, thank you. Give Stephanie a round of applause. All right. Stephanie is coming around with a mic. Who has questions?
All right, our first one. Hi, Jen.
Hi.
My question is, what happens to the conveyor belt when someone, a doctor, tells you that you're insulin resistant?
Great question.
Thank you.
So the insulin resistant question is not about the conveyor belt. It's about the cashier. So what happens when we're insulin resistant is when the body is not responding to the presence of insulin. So the medical solution to that is to give you more insulin rather than to help us sensitize to the insulin. So you have options besides just adding insulin into the equation. But what happens then is that your body's not used to or isn't responding to the presence of insulin. So they give you more to then help facilitate all the fuel to be used. But remember, we also store all that extra insulin as fat. So oftentimes, the medical solution has some side effects. So we want to think about what we can do to then resensitize us to insulin. Chromium is a huge factor in that. Magnesium is a huge factor in that. There's a patented ingredient called Lepticor, white kidney bean extract. Some supplementation can help your body properly respond to some of these hormones that are going to help us burn fuel, know when we're hungry, know when we're satisfied.
Thank you.
I'm Patrick. There's definitely a narrative around eating less fat. There's low fat, everything, right? So, but you're saying some fat is critical.
Yes.
Why is that? And what types of fat should we be eating?
Great question. So what's really interesting about this whole low fat, no fat thing, because anybody else in that fad, I did it. Snackwells, anyone? Right? Okay. We did it. Does anybody remember 2nd Avenue? There was the fat-free food store? Yeah. Yes. Okay. So it went a long way. It was one study that has never been replicated that made them think that fat created cholesterol. It is actually not fat that creates cholesterol. In fact, your body automatically produces cholesterol and will keep about 3 grams of cholesterol in your body at all times. So what will happen is if we aren't eating cholesterol, our body produces the balance. If we are eating things with more cholesterol, our body will produce less. Fat is critical for health. Every single cell in your body has a fatty membrane around it, like 7th grade science. Anyone? Okay. Yeah, got some nods. Thank you. Every cell in your body has a fatty membrane around it. If we don't have fat, we jeopardize the integrity of every cell. Our brain is mostly fat. Fat on your body also helps regulate body temperature. It also makes sure that we don't bump into a doorknob and puncture an organ. It serves a purpose, but it's what kind of fat? So the quality fat is omega-3s. So we want to think deep sea fish, everybody's favorite, sardines and anchovies, right? Avocado oil, olive oil, but don't cook with your olive oil. Olive oil has a really low smoke point, so it'll burn. It then becomes carcinogenic. So cooking, we want to use avocado oil or no oil. We actually don't need oil to cook. You know who created oil for cooking? The oil industry, right? So you can actually cook with water or nothing in your pan, right? Add a little bit of water and then use your oil to finish the foods so that your olive oil actually has flavor when you use it. And then you want to buy some really good quality olive oil because they can actually sell you a bottle of oil that's a little bit of olive oil and a lot of canola oil and call it olive oil. So we got to read our labels, make sure that we're getting 100% actual olive oil. Nuts and seeds, another great source of quality fat. By the way, serving of an avocado, guesses, what's a serving of an avocado?
Half.
Thank you. Half of the avocado. Everybody comes and they're like, great, I had a quarter of a sliver of a slice of an avocado. And I was like, you had what? Just eat the avocado, right? We're going to be fine. And in fact, what we actually need are a lot of those omega-3s. So omega-3s and omega-6s are supposed to exist in the body in a certain proportion, right? Most of us, because we eat processed food, we eat the fries. I know, I love them. We eat the fries. We end up with a lot of omega-6s. And so the average American, the ratio is supposed to be like 1-to-1 or 4-to-1 in that range. The average American is 45-to-1, 6s to 3s. So if you're supplementing with omega-3s, you want omega-3s only, not 3s and 6s, because that doesn't change the ratio, right? We want to avoid all the seed oils and the processed oils so that we can then add the omega-3s and get the health benefits. One thing about trans fats. So we all see on the front of labels where it's 0 grams of trans fat. They can say 0 grams of trans fat if it's 0.5 grams or less per serving. So we actually have to read the ingredients in order to know if there's trans fat in it. So trans fats are 100%, I was going to say man-made, but I'm going to say laboratory-made, right? They take an oil, usually a vegetable oil or a seed oil, and pump it full of chemicals, often hydrogen, to turn it into a solid at room temperature. So the fats that we want are a liquid at room temperature. Olive oil, avocado oil, right? The fats that we don't necessarily need are the solids at room temperature. So saturated fat, like the marbling in a steak, we actually need saturated fat, but if you eat animal protein, you're gonna get all the saturated fat you need. Trans fats are new to nature molecules. The body does not know what to do with it. The only way to identify them is to read the label and the ingredients. And it's going to say words like hydrolyzed, hydrogenated, fractionated, next to usually a vegetable oil, canola oil, palm seed oil, one of those kinds of things. No bueno, toxic to the body, does not know what to do with it. And that's also disrupting the fat balance in all of our bodies. So, long answer to a short question. Sorry. But we need that quality fat, and we're searching mostly for those omega-3s. Huge thank you to Plant Candy for providing the most beautiful and delicious salads at Salad with a Side of Fries Live in New York City. Plant Candy is on a mission to make plant-based living simple, creative, and fun. Plant Candy believes the journey to wellness can be as delightful as a sweet treat. Not just a wellness company, Plant Candy is a vibrant community of individuals passionate about embracing a plant-based lifestyle. Their commitment extends beyond providing information. It's about fostering a sense of joy, community, and flavor while living plant-based. Plant Candy provides fun, accessible, and delicious plant-based recipes that inspire people to incorporate more fruits and vegetables and whole grains into their daily lives. Offering catering, in-person and virtual workshops, cooking demos, food for life sessions, and team-building experiences, you can experience Plant Candy no matter where you live. Let Plant Candy plant the seed that a plant-based lifestyle is not only possible, but also a flavorful and enjoyable journey. Head over to plantcandy.com. That's plantcandy.com to check out their full offerings, recipes, books, and more. That's plantcandy.com. Let's redefine the future of nourishment, making plant-based living not just a choice, but a priority and joyful experience for all. Steph, we got another. And Patrick needs a gift.
Hi, my name is Brett.
Oh, you did? Okay, good.
Question. So regarding the diet sodas versus the regular sodas, obviously both should be banned, but what is worse and why? Like the Coca-Cola with 64 grams of sugar or the Diet Cola, which has aspartame, but no sugar, no calories, no fun, you know?
Right. This is where you get to decide. Pick your battles, right? Like if you can't survive without your soda, don't pick that battle. But the truth is, as you said, none of them are doing us any favors, right? Aspartame is actually in both diet and regular soda. Aspartame is a known carcinogen. It actually, when heated above 96 degrees, splits into two molecules. One of those molecules is methane that crosses the blood-brain barrier. It's why a lot of people get headaches. I saw that. Yep. You're like, what? So we want to avoid that aspartame. It's not doing our health any favors. And then you get to decide. Honestly, like if the sugar in the soda is the battle you're going to pick, then do your thing, you know, because frankly, both things are going to keep us addicted to the sweetness. They're also going to cross the blood-brain barrier and be toxic. So you do you for whatever that's worth. I will tell you, one of the first things I did was I gave up soda. I'm not saying you have to do that. I'm just saying. We got another one. Go for it.
Hi, my name is Jill. We are all individuals on our own roller coaster rides. How can we determine where we are and what is the first thing that we can do to either optimize cell performance or how do we determine what is, on the sort of food chain, what are the first things that we should attack based on our body?
Yeah. It's hard to answer because everybody's different, but it fundamentally comes down to what's your priority, right? So if we said the answer to the one thing you want to change about your health and prevent in the future is, energy, right? If there's a piece, then we're going to focus on that. So it kind of comes down to what are you noticing in your life is hindering anything else? And then we want to start there. For some people, if they just feel great all the time, but they want to take it to the next level, that's when we want to get some blood work. Let's see what's happening. And let's look at how we can make some small tweaks. This is also a great time where then we might look at some biohacks. We might look at some supplementation to take us from the normal range to the what we would call optimal range, right? But for a lot of people, we're hovering on the high end or the low end, right? So our first step is to get into Western medicine's version of quote unquote normal. And then we want to work toward optimal. And so it's hard to say because it kind of just depends for everybody. But I would say, what are you noticing every day? And start with that. With that said, if we're looking at performance goals, right? Like if we're going to run a marathon or we're going to say, I want to, lift something or do some sort of bodybuilding competition. That is a very different objective than somebody who's saying, I want to make that scale go down. And so it really comes down to just honing in on that one thing at a time. It doesn't mean we won't get to the other thing, but a lot of times what I see is that people are trying to do two things at the same time and then accomplishing nothing. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Hey.
Hi. Tell us your name.
Chad. I know, I'm Chad. I'm a very, very large fan of yours, and I need about like 14 more hours of questions from you. But I was circling back around to optimization and thinking about what you were saying, and also as far as the conveyor belt and food timing, and thinking about when somebody will just say from a general standpoint, the speed of the conveyor belt as it's going in the grocery store, as far as number of meals or how many meals per day, how much should they be looking towards fueling their bodies during the day to optimize their own health?
Yeah, great question. Depends how much we're eating at a time. And this is a little bit of when do you feel your best? So serving of protein for a man at a meal is 6 to 8 ounces, your whole hand. Right? For all of us, your whole hand, protein at a meal. Serving of protein for a female at a meal, it's still your whole hand. It's just 4 to 6 ounces, right? A snack is 2 to 3 ounces for everybody. So that's like a little less than the palm of your hand. So it's just a function of how much we're eating at a time to determine when we need to fuel again to keep the conveyor belt at an even pace. So in addition to the protein, we have our fiber. How much fiber do we want in a day? Anybody? Yes. She's a great student. 25 grams of fiber is our minimum objective, but we want to work our way there because the average American eats less than 10. So, right? It's mind-boggling. So we want to work our way up to that. So the objective I often give my clients is 8 to 12 handfuls of vegetables a day, unless it's greens, and then it's 2 handfuls is 1 serving. Because, like spinach becomes nothing. So 2 handfuls of spinach is 1 serving. So over the course of the day, how we get that in could be smaller meals, more snacks, more frequently, or it could be full-blown meals less often. And then within that, it's really individual. Because I've noticed I often feel better when dinner is a smaller meal. Where are my sugar craving people? I mean, good Lord. Right? I love the 2 hands. Mostly sugar cravings are coming from undereating protein. Late night eating. Where are my late night eating people? Late night sugar. Late night eating is often connected to undereating early in the day. If you live restricted food, right? That late night eating. So the trick to the conveyor belt pacing is what's going to keep you satisfied for how long and eating throughout the day. Whether that becomes a couple snacks or a couple meals or whatever is very different. There are some days also that might be different. Like if you have a super long meeting, don't eat a snack. If we can't eat again for 5 hours, we need a meal to last us the 5 hours. So part of the experimentation is also to say, well, how long does this meal last me versus how long does that one? Because then we can start to plan and be a little bit strategic. That's like if I'm running around the city all day, I need to make sure that I'm eating enough to get through all of that to the next time that I'm going to eat. Does that make sense? Helpful? Awesome.
Hi, my name's Jennifer, and I've known Jen since 2006 when she started her health journey. I've seen her maybe 4 times a week or virtually right. on this health journey. So my question, I think, is for both genders. In my business, I'm in the fitness industry, there are so often stories about like, I suddenly gained 10 pounds. Like, OMG, what happened? So what is happening and what can you do when you suddenly have weight gain?
Yeah. Most of the time, this is a life change. It could be a hormonal life change. It could be a career life change. But there's typically some sort of life change that happens where what worked before doesn't work anymore. And it feels like it shows up overnight, but it doesn't actually, right? So especially when it comes to hormonal changes, we have to respond to the body differently. So going to the fitness piece, for a lot of women, as we're getting to the later years, that HIIT workout that felt so good now sends stress signals to the body. And when we are stressed, what happens? Right? We hold on to everything. And as we have less estrogen, we start to hold on to more fat. So it's all connected. The trick is to start to work with our bodies rather than always trying to fight it. So we want to start to say, okay, what helps me feel better? For a lot of us, another one, write this down. We're the coffee people. Right now we got 2 hands over there.
Yeah. Or matcha.
Matcha, right? We're going to call it caffeine. Let's work to make sure that we don't have caffeine before food. Caffeine with food or after. But caffeine before food sets us up on a cortisol roller coaster. Right? We've got some hands, palm, face, whatever that emoji is. Yeah. So, but there are some little things that we can start to do. But again, it makes the argument for like not trying to figure it out on your own or not trying to just do what we see on Instagram, because everybody's situation is different, right? But a lot of times it's under eating the protein, under eating the fiber, overeating the processed foods and the caffeine and living in the stress state. Yeah. Hey friends, popping in here to thank Curious Elixirs for providing the fabulous beverages at Salad with a Side of Fries Live. Curious Elixirs are booze-free craft cocktails infused with adaptogens to help you unwind. Their mission is to transform how we drink by making the world's best booze-free beverages infused with plant-based adaptogens that benefit your body. The team at Curious Elixirs is made of some non-drinkers and some who simply drink way less in their quest to live their best lives. All the flavors are bold and crafted for the adventurous. They proudly use only organic juices, herbs, and spices to make your mouth dance. At the event, we had Curious Elixir number 9, the non-alcoholic sparkling rosé cocktail. And then in the swag bags, we had Curious Elixir number 1, the non-alcoholic pomegranate Negroni Spuglito. Voted Best Non-Alcoholic Drinks 2021 through 2023 by the New York Times, Curious Elixirs offers a better option at the end of the day or weekend to wind down. A solution for that moment when we're most vulnerable to pouring a glass of wine or cracking open a beer. For booze-free cocktails made with organic ingredients, no refined sugar, and infused with adaptogens, visit CuriousElixirs.com. That's CuriousElixirs.com. Think quality ingredients you can feel good about, whether you're a sober OG, sober curious, or simply want to make life with less alcohol more fun and delicious.
So going back to some of the prior questions, like Jill, and talking about what if I want to change something, right? I guess the question is, I'm going to say what's probably a bias, which is that, doctors are great, but if you're not sick, right, and there's nothing wrong, the appetite to do a battery of things may not quite be there. And I get that. But So then where does one go to get that information? Obviously, there's health coaches and nutritionists, but it's hard.
Well, it's interesting because in New York, we can't order labs. If you go to other states, you can find a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, FDNP. Go to New Jersey and Connecticut. They can order lab work for you. They can also do functional lab work versus just your typical lab work. But also, most people's insurance is going to cover labs once a year. So sometimes we have to be a little firm with our practitioners to say, please do the full workup. I want a full metabolic panel. I want a full thyroid panel. I want a full cholesterol panel, right? And ask them for some of this lab work. Make sure that you get those test results, right? Don't just let them tell you everything's fine. You want to see them. And then you can bring that lab work to somebody in New York who can't order it. I will tell you, in your swag bags, you have a $300 value at 50% off to go to Recovery Plus in the city for cardiopulmonary exercise testing. What they do is they look at how your heart, your lungs, and your muscles all work together. But my friend Jenny, who works there, ordered lab work for me. And I just went to LabCorp and got the test. And at least at this point, my, independent business owner health insurance has covered it. So we'll see what happens. Might end up with a giant bill. But I just did lab work the other week. I actually self-experiment. I went off all supplements for like 6 months because I'm a little crazy and I wanted to know what the labs would be. And I was very pleasantly surprised because also, sidebar, I did a genetic test a few years ago that looks at specifically metabolic, what are called SNPs, or like variations in genes. This particular test that is no longer offered, I'm working on finding another option, so stay tuned, gave you like a genetic propensity to obesity score. My score was an 8.5 out of 10. One of my mentors was a former professional football player. His score was a 7.6. I was pissed. Right. Mine's an 8.5. So taking into account that I had all of the genes that make you less sensitive to insulin, more prone to sugar cravings, right? More prone to gaining weight. No wonder why I felt like I would breathe and gain weight at times in my life. But it's interesting, what gave me the 8.5 instead of 10 was that I also had the genes that respond, or the gene variations that respond to nutrition and exercise and supplementation. Thank goodness. So I was pleasantly surprised to see that all of my labs were fine and in the, normal range for Western medicine. And now I can add my supplementation back in and I can get to what I want them to be in the more optimal side. Does that make sense? I'm sorry, I totally forgot what the question was. Oh, the lab work. Oh, wait, hold on. You have to come do that in the microphone.
Oh, sorry. Oh, yeah, and I forgot my name. I'm Dawn.
Great.
It's more that if you have whatever your thing is that you're trying to figure out or correct, how do you know where the best place is to go to get the answer?
So get the lab work and then bring it to a functional practitioner, whether that's certain health coaches or lifestyle medicine physicians or people who are going to look at that lab work against an optimal range versus Western medicine's normal.
But how do you know what to ask the doctor to get?
So you're going to do like a full metabolic panel, a full thyroid panel, and your cholesterol, and ask them to do like all the vitamins and things like that. That's going to give us a place to start to say, okay, is there anything going on? And then from there, we might find things to dig a little bit deeper. We might say, okay, now it's really your choice. What are you noticing? Back to Jill's question. What are you noticing? What do you want to work on? And then we can make some tweaks for that piece.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ronnie. Long-time listener, first-time speaker. You mentioned before that one of the first things you gave up was soda.
Yeah.
What are some of the other things you've given up and why?
So this is a great question. And I say this because I actually just had this conversation on an episode. An elimination diet of any kind is not designed to live on forever. An elimination diet is for a therapeutic purpose so we can heal and repair, and then we can add things back in. So I cut out the soda. I cut out one of the other first rules I made for myself is that I don't eat food out of bags. What comes in bags? Chips, cookies, right? Well, grapes aren't my favorite anyway, right? I made the exception for carrots, but it was an easy way to shut down the conversation and the crazy dialogue that would happen in my head. And I say crazy because that's how I felt, right? Okay, I used to work in hedge funds. The kitchen in this like hedge fund hotel had continental breakfast on Mondays and pizza lunch on Fridays. And I could go in the kitchen once, twice to get water and resist the mini croissants and the mini muffins and all the things that were there on Monday morning. But by the third time I was going to get water, it was like they had a voice and they were yelling my name, and you laugh because you know, right? By learning this information, the conveyor belt, the protein and fiber, by figuring out that sugar and high glycemic carbohydrate cravings are coming from a lack of protein, the food decisions shifted from being emotional to intellectual. And I walked in that kitchen and I was like, oh my God, I get why that croissant has a voice. Because I haven't eaten the thing that I brought to eat for breakfast yet. So what I really need to do is go eat the thing that I brought, which was some eggs and fruit, and then decide if I want to have the croissant. Lo and behold, once I had the other thing, I didn't care about the croissant. It didn't have a voice anymore, right? Because my blood sugar was stabilized. And I'm saying this whole story because I now eat things out of bags and I have self-control and I can eat a few and put it away. So think of high glycemic foods, the foods that are going to spike our blood sugar, as the color red, okay? Low glycemic foods, protein, fiber, quality fat, are the color white. If we mix them together, what color do we get? Pink. Thank you. What happens with pink? It's a slower conveyor belt than red, right? Not as slow as white, but slower than red. And what happens if we have less of the red stuff and more of the white stuff? What color do we get? A lighter pink, a pale pink. Well, now we're closer to white. We slow down the conveyor belt a little bit more. So in real life, we have the bread basket after we've had some food. We have some of the bread with our meal instead of before. We eat dessert right after our meal, Thanksgiving, instead of waiting an hour and sugar bombing ourselves later. And what happens is that the same croissant, the same bread, the same cookies don't impact your body the same way it does right now when we eat them in a different order or further away from each other. Great question. Because now I eat all those things. And I'll have soda. I know I said it. But Dr. Pepper. Sorry, nobody asked. Yes, Dr. Pepper.
One more thank you to Chelsea Square Restaurant for providing all the fries at Salad with a Side of Fries Live in New York City. Chelsea Square serves up some of the best diner fare in all of New York. Whether you're dining in, ordering for delivery, or stopping by for takeout, it's absolutely delicious. Spend time in the wood-paneled dining room that's decorated with stained glass light fixtures and headshots of celebrities from every generation who've enjoyed Chelsea Square Restaurant. If you don't have time to stop in, delivery is fast and ordering is easy. Their portions are bigger than your typical diner, served round the clock for every night owl and early bird. Still family owned and operated, they use family recipes and make everything themselves and fresh, whether it's the Greek or Italian specialties, the incredible pastries and desserts, or even your typical diner omelet, chicken fingers, grilled cheese, and of course, fries. I can attest, you can taste the difference. Open 24 hours, you owe it to yourself to stop by Chelsea Square Restaurant in New York City on the corner of 23rd Street and 9th Avenue. Ask for Manny, tell him Salad with a Side of Fries podcast sent you. That's Chelsea Square Restaurant in New York City at 23rd Street and 9th Avenue.
My name is Judy.
Hi.
Hi. Can you address intermittent fasting? I know it was on a podcast a while ago, but I see in particular, I shared a story with you about somebody that works at a client of mine, and she was not very big to begin with at all. And all of a sudden, you could see her bones popping out. I mean, it was unbelievable what happened to her. And I asked her, and she said, intermittent fasting.
Yeah.
I don't know if I believe it because I've listened to you about what happens to the body and fasting, and it's not like that. So can you address that kind of diet?
How many people have heard of intermittent fasting? How many people have tried intermittent fasting? For how long? Right? A lot of times people just forget to eat or they're busy and they're like, oh, I'm intermittent fasting. Right? We've been there. I know. So for the average person, intermittent fasting just acts as a way to control calorie intake, right? If we're eating in fewer hours, we're inherently going to eat less. To that, I posit this question. We have established that the average American does not eat enough fiber, does not eat enough protein, does not eat enough food with nutrition, right? We have a clear epidemic of health in this country, and everybody is given 24 hours a day to eat. Wait, so how do we think that those same people are going to get all the nutrition the body needs in half or a third or a fourth of that time? And by the way, the body doesn't say, oh, B vitamins, great, we're going to store those for later. Vitamins are water soluble except for A, D, E, and K. The only vitamins your body will hold on to are fat soluble vitamins. Again, we need our quality fat in order to absorb fat soluble vitamins. So vitamin C, vitamin B, all of our water-soluble vitamins, we're going to pee them out if we don't use them when we need them, right? When we get them. They don't stay and hang around. So the question is actually, what happens short-term versus what happens long-term? Long-term, when we dramatically cut calories, we're losing that weight. Well, even in the short term, when we're losing that weight, the number on the scale is going down, right? What we're losing is water, muscle, and bone. Well, muscle is metabolically active. Muscle burns fuel. That's why she's starting to look emaciated, by the way, because her body is eating its own muscle to survive. So we lose that weight as water, muscle, and bone. But then at some point, we're like, I can't do this anymore, right? And we go back to old eating habits. But now we have less muscle on our body to be burning that extra fuel. And so we gain it back as fat. We lose it as water, muscle, and bone, gain it back as fat. Lose it as water, muscle, and bone, gain it back as fat. Anybody else ever been on that roller coaster that I was on? Because we're all losing it as water, muscle, and bone, gaining it back as fat. Losing it water, muscle, and bone, gaining it back as fat. So over time, we could end up at the same number on the scale as we were before. But by body composition, we're actually fatter at that number, which means our health is not the same. Also, that's why BMI is BS, but that's another conversation. So back to intermittent fasting. It works. I like it better for men than for women. Especially for women, it can wreak havoc on hormones. And a lot of the cellular health benefits that people are looking for from intermittent fasting happens more from a couple times a year, maybe quarterly, doing like a 3-day fast, where we actually put our body into a state where it forces this cell regeneration. Most people trying to live their lives and push their body to perform and think and do without fuel puts us into a stress state and to hold on to everything as fat. So over time, it's not necessarily serving us. The kind of fasting that I'm a huge fan of is about finishing food about 2 to 3 hours before bed and then getting fuel in our system within an hour of waking up. If you're a female with some hormone challenges, make that 4 hours before bed. So our fasting, right? What time do people go to bed? Throw out a time.
10 o'clock.
11? All right, I heard 11. So finish food like 8, 9. What time do we wake up? 7. We get food by 8? Well, that's 12 hours, right? But that gives us 12 hours, and it's while we're sleeping. Sleep is the magic that everybody is missing. We're the only species that deprives ourselves of sleep for no reason. A whole other conversation, right? But so the kind of fasting that really will serve you is a couple hours before bed to about an hour after waking up. Great question. We have time for probably one more. Yeah.
So I have a question.
Okay.
This may be controversial, so please, people don't hate me. So this goes back to your very first episode, and it's what I'm sure everybody enjoyed. You know, exactly. Alcohol. So this is something that I struggle with, especially as getting older. I can't drink like I used to. I try to drink clean. I want to say, oh no, I'm not drinking, but like club soda sometimes just doesn't hit the same.
Get it?
So what do you suggest in terms of like you hear people say, I quit alcohol, I dropped 10 pounds.
Yep.
I would love to be that person, but like, it's just my lifestyle doesn't
Yeah.
allow. I don't know.
I even said in that episode, I suppose you could date sober, but like, it's
I
hard.
know. So yeah, how do you, like, as you get
know.
older, your relationship with alcohol, what do you recommend is like optimal? And then if you are going to drink, is it like the vodka tequila with soda?
So I'm going to try to remember the statistic. Medical research used to double every like 58 years. We are now doubling medical research like every 5.5 years or less, because I'm probably misremembering this whole statistic. The episode was, I'll think of it too. So this is where newer research comes in. And I just learned about this study this week. So backing up that first episode, we talked about how the real impact of alcohol is on the liver, because our liver is not a multitasker. Our liver can only process one thing at a time. And so our liver has to process everything that is toxic and even things that are not toxic, like fat, right? Sugar, alcohol. They call it intoxicated. When we have alcohol in the system, it is prioritized by the liver. The liver can only do one thing at a time. It prioritizes based on that which is the most toxic. So the alcohol happens first, and it will not get to any of the food we eat till the alcohol is out of the system. So this is also why we have an epidemic of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, because we're all way overeating sugar and processed food. And so the body is never actually, the liver is never getting to address fat. And so it builds up in the liver, which is what happens with a lot of alcoholics, because their liver's trying to always process the alcohol. It never gets to the fat. So used to say, right? How many of us have heard the problem with alcohol is the sugar in the alcohol itself and the mixers, right? Yep. And then how many of us heard that, okay, we should just drink the straight alcohol, and then the problem is the food that we eat after, because once we've had a couple drinks, we just don't care, right? It's not really it either, because again, it goes back to the liver. But this latest research, this study that I learned about this week, actually compared alcohol to wine. And what it saw is that there's a dramatic difference in how the body processes hard alcohol versus wine. And so it might be worth reconsidering what we drink to be the wine, and then looking at our quantity and figuring out what our lives look like. And then it might make the argument for saying, okay, when I am going to drink, I'm also not going to exacerbate the burden on the liver by having these other things. Or I'm going to do something else that supports the liver, maybe some herbs and things like that, that can then help the body detoxify. Make sense?
So yes to rosé.
I mean, yeah, I wouldn't choose rosé, but sure. Like if I was going to pick one, I don't know. Depends on the day. I'm usually red or bubbles these days. So here's the deal. I want you to go back to your notebooks. Remember that question? What's one thing you want to change about your health today or prevent in the future? What was the answer to that? Consider that what you wrote down. When you leave here, your job is to do one thing, one step, one thing to move your health forward. You don't have to do 85 things. We talked about a lot. You do one thing. And then after that, you can do another thing. But we're going to do one thing first. Because here's what I know. By being here tonight, you've already taken the hardest step. You are already on your way because you sat in this room. So congratulations for making yourselves and your health a priority, because you deserve it and you're worth it. Thank you. Thank you. Well, friends, we did a thing. Okay, on Friday, this week's bonus episode Nutrition Nugget is about 30 seconds a day. What does that mean? What can you do in 30 seconds a day? You're going to have to tune in on Friday for this week's Nutrition Nugget bonus episode to find out. Be sure to click the follow or the plus sign on whatever app you're listening in, and then your app will remind you when the Nutrition Nugget is available on Friday morning at 3 a.m. Eastern. As always, I'm your host, Jenn Trepeck. Connect with me on Instagram or all social media. I'm at Jenn Trepeck, JENNTREPECK. Website is asaladwithasideofries.com. Please send a message. Pick your platform, whatever is easiest. I want to hear your takeaways, your ideas, your questions. This is also the easiest way to learn more about working with me as your health coach. Thank you again to everyone who joined us live in New York City. And of course, if you are not already, join our membership program by going to glow.fm/saladwithasideofries. This shows your support for this podcast and this community. Most importantly, it truly supports your health. You'll get this week's recipe for the grilled shrimp with spicy slaw.
Well, friends, that's it for today's episode of Salad with a Side of Fries. Congratulations for making yourself and your health a priority. Thanks so much for joining us. Be sure to click subscribe or follow on your favorite podcast platform. Share us with a friend, and we'll be back next week. Always remember, you deserve it, and you are worth it. Happy healthy.